Match 5, Zilla vs. Titanosaurus by Forrest Freud.
Just when I thought we escaped.
Not for a while. The sun rises over the east side of New York City. As the citizens slowly rouse from their sleep, a tremor begins emanating from Central Park. Within 10 blocks of the park, people begin to panic and run screaming in every direction. The ground under the park begins to buckle, and with a roar, Zilla bursts from under the Central Park auditorium, smashing it to bits and sending shrapnel into the sky. As its roars thunder through the city, the people's panic begins to solidify into terror as they begin to run frantically away from the monstrous beast. Pass.
Did Forrest had all the original 13 monsters?
Not all of them. I mean, of course, Gorsor's Kamunga's James Webster. So.
Are you sure? Because I'm looking at the rest of these real quick, and they seem to be all written by the same dude.
Hang on, let me see.
Okay, no, Tom. Okay, no, I'm blind. Tom is starting to get into it. But we're gonna see his name a lot in the future.
Yeah, the next few are gonna be a lot up until match 9-ish. So,
okay,
brace yourself.
Meanwhile, the Coast Guard had picked up something enormous on the sonar. The creature was easily over 60 meters long and moving coastward rapidly. The Harbor Patrol calls out for an evacuation order as the creature closes in on the city. The surface of the water flashes a brilliant white, and then Titanosaurus explodes out of the water, launching himself into the air and onto the dock. Whoa! Titanosaurus wheels his arms and torso and screeches his warbling cry into the heavens. In the distance, Titanosaurus can hear a noise, one that sounds very familiar and yet subtly different from the one he remembers. Old memories of pain and humiliation flood back to him as he recalls he was forced by the small being to fight against that other monster, then nearly driven to madness by the screams from the tooth that the other small beings being shot into his neck. Titanosaurus hisses and the memories of pain comes flashing back to him. Thirsty for revenge, he begins to stalk into the city. Oh no, he beans to stalk into the city. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Titanosaurus weaves through the buildings, listening for the other monster. On top of one of the nearby structures, Zilla spots Titanosaurus and quickly roars out a challenge before leaping down to the concrete below. Pass and wow.
Yep. Apparently, this is.
Remember Zilla's like a vulture's perched on buildings all day?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, given the.
When Titanosaurus went.
Oh, when Titanosaurus is like jumping onto the dock, that's not impossible. He has the extraordinary jumping ability.
That's true, but remember when Titanosaurus appeared, there's just a bright flash of light wherever he went?
Actually, that was a thing, wasn't it? Bright flash of light.
Was it?
I forget. Was it?
Really?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't think it.
I can't remember.
No.
I can't remember, to be perfectly honest. From the film, I'm pretty sure the water would flash sometimes. It was only in the first half of the movie, though. But
what? There's a canonical what?
I think I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong in my memory. But yeah.
Okay. Well, it's your whatever.
Yep. So to continue, Titanosaurus hears the roar and reflexively leaps straight up into the air. Zilla surges past him and lands on the pavement below, overcompensating and staggering forward because he missed his mark. Titanosaurus lands with a crash that causes the buildings to shake, then turns to face his opponent. As he does, Titanosaurus realizes that his creature isn't the one that humiliated him. Just the same, it sounded enough like it to take some aggression out on, if only by proxy. Titanosaurus screeches out a challenge to Zilla, who also roars back in response. Titanosaurus drops his shoulders and charges. Zilla responds by arcing his back and also advancing headlong into his foe, roaring defiantly. The two behemoths connect with each other. Zilla landing the first blow by landing a headbutt into Titanosaurus' chest. Titanosaurus chirps in pain, then responds by dragging his claws across Zilla's left shoulder and lower portion of his jaw. Zilla roars out in pain, then bites Titanosaurus' right leg. Titanosaurus screams as Zilla clamps his jaws down onto his thigh. Pass.
Remember this is back when we couldn't say that it was Godzilla that beat Titanosaurus for some reason?
Wait, what?
Well, they're specifically avoiding actually naming Godzilla as the monster that beat Titanosaurus. Remember we couldn't do that?
There was a time where we couldn't do that?
Well, you're reading this. They're not naming Godzilla.
Right. I think that's just their way of being like, oh, I'm slick and subtle when it's not.
Oh, I thought for sure we couldn't reference Showa Godzilla, but maybe
you can reference Showa Godzilla. That's perfectly fine.
Like we could mention at least name that it was Godzilla that beat these monsters. That'd be stupid.
Yep. Well, right. So don't like referencing other monsters is totally legit. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
So I guess again the author just felt like it's like maybe they were trying to feel clever by not saying it's Godzilla, even though we all obviously
I guess so.
Even though we all obviously know what it's alluding to. So yeah.
All right. Titanosaurus begins to hammer Zilla's head with his fists and claws, trying to get him to release his jaw lock. Zilla, in response to the assault, merely tightens his grip and starts to twist his neck, trying to tear out Titanosaurus' thigh. Titanosaurus screams out in pain, then reaches down and grabs Zilla by the top and bottom jaws. Screeching and pulling with all his might, Titanosaurus begins to pull Zilla's jaws open until he has freed his leg. Titanosaurus lets go of Zilla's jaws, which snap shut. Titanosaurus shuffles backwards, then knees Zilla in the throat, grabs his jaws shut. Wait. What? And grabs his jaws shut and lifts him into the air by his head. Shoulder throws him through one of the nearby buildings. I'm sorry, that sentence threw me off.
Yeah, I can't blame you.
So he already grabbed his already shut jaws and shut them again? Did he open and shut them again?
I think he opened and shut them again.
What? Literally the last sentence, which his jaw snapped shut, which apparently that means he shut him again.
Yeah, I think he let go of him sometime between that. Not gonna lie, I'm a little lost on that.
Sorry, that's weird.
Yeah, Titanosaurus let go of Zilla's jaws, which snaps shut, then grabs his jaw again.
Yep, and snaps him shut again.
Yeah, weird. Okay.
Pass.
Zilla strikes the building and with a roar of pain crushes the front half, knocking it to rubble as he falls to the ground. Zilla rises and roars at Titanosaurus, who screeches back at him defiantly. Zilla charges at Titanosaurus and leaps into the air, landing on Titanosaurus' chest. As he is recoiling from the attack, Zilla then pushes off with his back legs, jumping off Titanosaurus and throwing him backwards with the force of the push-off. Titanosaurus screeches as he is thrown backwards into one of the skyscrapers behind him, sending a shower of glass shards into the air like a crystalline rainstorm. Titanosaurus shrieks in pain as the glass bites into his skin. Pulling himself free of the damaged building, he charges at Zilla. Okay, so real quick before I continue, so glass shards can hurt giant monsters? Okay.
Yeah, in this match you can. In this match they can.
Alright. And recoiling form the attack from the attack.
He is fully formed the attack. He's recoiling to form the attack, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I know glass is sharp, but giant monster flesh is pretty thick. I probably would have been more tolerant had it been Zilla, but...
Yeah, Zilla sounds like... Well, Zilla could be struck down by missiles. Glass could hurt him.
But to be fair, Titanosaurus isn't the world's most durable monster either, but again, glass.
He could still tank it. He could still take bullets and missiles, though, remember?
Right. So, Titanosaurus bows down as he charges. Then, when he comes within reach of Zilla, brings his body up quickly, striking Zilla with his neck. Zilla is thrown back slightly by the force of the blow. As he staggers back, Titanosaurus lunges forward, then turns around quickly and strikes his opponent with his tail. Zilla is thrown to his side by the blow, staggering to his left. Titanosaurus turns around quickly and, reaching forward, grabs Zilla around the neck. Screeching, Titanosaurus lifts Zilla from the ground by the neck. Tightening his grip, Titanosaurus begins to choke his prey. Zilla begins to foam at the mouth as he begins to lose consciousness. Zilla chirps with pleasure as he sees Zilla beginning to go under. Pass.
Okay, I thought you said chirps with pleasure. I'm like, what? Zilla lifts his hind legs and kicks out, striking Titanosaurus in the gut. Titanosaurus loosens his as Zilla kicks again. Okay, driving his claws into the tough hide on Titanosaurus' belly. Zilla raises his legs again and kicks out, this time pushing free of Titanosaurus' grip. Titanosaurus shrieks in pain and clutches his bleeding stomach. Zilla takes the opportunity and, rising, turns around and runs around the corner of the street and out of sight. Titanosaurus wheezes for a few seconds as he regains his wind, then, noticing his foe is gone, to pursue. As it turns the corner that Zilla went around, he comes to a stop in front of an immense hole in the pavement. Titanosaurus looks around anxiously, not knowing what to make of the situation. Titanosaurus begins to back away from the hole, and as he does, he cranes his neck up as high as he can and looks around, watching for Zilla. Pass.
As Titanosaurus sets his foot down, the ground explodes as Zilla bursts from the concrete and latches his jaws onto Titanosaurus' injured right leg and begins to pull him into his burrow, purring softly at the success of his ambush. Titanosaurus falls to his hands and knees as Zilla drags him towards the hollow in the ground. Titanosaurus digs his hand and foot claws into the ground in an effort to avoid being pulled into the underground, where he would have a distinct disadvantage. Zilla shakes his jaws violently, sending Titanosaurus' blood onto the street as his teeth dig deeper into the wounded limb. Titanosaurus cranes his neck around and screeches at Zilla, then lifting his free left leg, Titanosaurus kicks backwards with all his might, driving his heel into the heel of his foot into Zilla's muzzle. Zilla grunts in pain but doesn't let go. Titanosaurus kicks again, this time causing Zilla to slacken his grip, yet not enough to shake free. A third time, Titanosaurus kicks his foe in the muzzle, this time cracking the bone with the force of the blow. Zilla shrieks out in pain and releases Titanosaurus as blood runs out of his nostrils. Titanosaurus takes the opportunity and leaps away. Zilla, almost blind with rage, as he erupts from his burrow and charges at Titanosaurus. Titanosaurus turns his back on Zilla and opens the sail on his tail. As Zilla closes and leaps, Titanosaurus begins to violently wave his fin back and forth. Instantly, a gale-force wind picks up, throwing Zilla backwards as he flies through the air. Zilla rolls on the ground for several blocks before regaining his sense of balance and digging his claws into the pavement. He roars as he digs his foreclaws and hind legs into the ground. Titanosaurus does not stop fanning, but instead picks up the pace, causing the wind to increase its speed. Trees uproot and cars parked on the streets fly through the air, slamming into Zilla. One car slams into the shattered portion of his muzzle, causing him to screech out in pain and loosen his grip. His claws relax slightly and is thrown backwards and into a skyscraper, sending glass and metal flying. Pass.
The Titanosaurus stops fanning his tail, causing the maelstrom to stop, then turns to finish Zilla off. As he does, he realizes that Zilla has retreated to the underground again. Titanosaurus lumbers where Zilla fell, and finds one of his foe's dorsal spines that snapped off during the impact. What? He's not very interested in this, however. Oh, that's not an interesting side. With the hole in which he assumes Zilla has retreated down. The Titanosaurus backs away, again looking on nervously, but instead of looking for Zilla, he listens for him. The Titanosaurus hears a faint rumble behind him and leaps into the air. Zilla bursts from the ground and snaps his jaws in the empty space. Surging out of his burrow, Zilla looks around for Titanosaurus. He hears a crash behind him as the Titanosaurus lands and grabs onto his tail. Okay. Titanosaurus heaves with all his might and swings Zilla off the ground and into one of the buildings. Not letting go, he swings Zilla again and slams him into the adjacent building. Zilla tries to pull away, but is badly wounded from the blows. Pass.
Titanosaurus maintains his hold and slowly begins to work his grip up Zilla's body until he has both hands on his skull and jaw. Zilla tries to struggle, but is still weak from the previous blows. Titanosaurus, digging his feet into the ground, begins to twist his adversary's neck. Zilla groans in pain as his neck vertebrae are twisted violently. Then, with a sickening wet crack, the bones in Zilla's neck separate as they break and his spinal cord is severed. Titanosaurus chirps with delight to himself as he releases the carcass of his foe, which drops to the ground with a sickening thud. Titanosaurus kicks the carcass with his good leg, testing to see if his opponent was truly dead. Then, satisfied that his foe is not going to get back up, he turns and limps back towards his home in the ocean to heal. Winner, Titanosaurus.
Wow.
So I mean, this one just feels kind of like a standard. They both fight and doesn't really matter where it takes place. Because honestly, outside of Zilla chirping... Yeah, outside of Zilla's one moment where he's like chirping on one of the taller buildings, which again, being 60 meters tall at the point of this recording, being that tall, he would have the ability to, you know, perch on taller buildings. Totally could.
I'm amazed. I'm pretty impressed that building. I'm pretty impressed that building managed to hold Zilla's weight. To be honest,
chalk that up to fiction. Chalk that up to giant monster fiction.
Fine human art. That is some fine architecture right there. Those guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, just like the animated counterpart where he's like crawling up the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
And all of that. It's like, how do we do that? Apparently we're really good at holding giant monsters on top of tall skyscrapers.
Hey, it's an art.
Yeah, I mean, it's an art. It's an art.
That should be a selling point. A giant monster wouldn't be able to knock this building down except it totally can.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot. I mean, again, this just kind of suffers from the usual sort of it's just a fight in the city. They don't really take advantage of anything. But again, being an early match, I'm not expecting that much out of it.
I'm not really expecting some grand masterpiece here.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah. Got anything else to add?
Some of the sentences kind of threw me off. I'm like, you need to go back to grammar school, son.
Again, this was written like good glory, maybe like in relation. This is recording 14 years ago.
14 years ago? Are you serious?
Yeah, like 2002-ish.
Jeez.
So yeah, this is really old stuff we're touching up here. So. Yeah.
I was like 5 years old when this was written, man. Jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But so that was Zilla versus Titanosaurus. And we will see you guys in match number 6, Legion versus Megaguirus. Until then, take care, everyone.